Kia ora, I'm Amanda Gillies, and today on The Detail, what happens to hardened Kiwis defined by crime, addiction and gang life? Do they ever deserve a second chance? And if so, who gives it to them? Well, enter the Grace Foundation. It's now the country's largest rehab for people who are on bail, on parole, serving home detention or leaving prison. The doors are also open to those battling addiction and to mums with kids who need a safe home. It's their chance, sometimes their only chance, to rebuild and rise again after falling on incredibly tough times.
If you look over the years, in almost 2 decades now, we've literally had thousands come through our doorway.
I'd like to thank Mātua Dave, Grace Foundation, for having me. 25 years I've never had bail. Finally, someone's given me blessings to be here. No, I'm not going to let you down, Mātua.
We have no criteria to get in. My hope is that you come through the doorway because you've come for the right reasons. You've landed on this waka of opportunity, of hope, of healing. The gang mentality, the jail mentality that you've come with, we want you to leave it at the gate and give yourself a chance to consider better ways of doing life.
That's Dave Letele. No, not Brown Butterbean, one of the country's most well-known citizens, but his dad, Dave Snr. He helped create the Grace Foundation with his wife Tui, and their story has just been turned into a documentary, Home of Hope, which is now airing on TV3.
Grace Foundation, it's a place of healing and a place of hope.
People that have never had a home, never had a family, you will find it in Grace.
We don't just rehab, we rebuild. Goal for me, personally, is to have gang members leave better people.
They just need a chance.
When nothing else worked for me, Grace is what saved my life.
Some people go, once a criminal, always a criminal, they don't deserve a second chance.
It's not about a second chance. It's actually about providing their first chance they never got.
Today, Dave Snr joins me in the studio to talk about the Grace Foundation, which he began back in 2007. But we actually start our chat a little earlier than that. We go back to when he was a boy growing up in a close-knit Samoan Christian family in Auckland.
I mean, there was 9 of us siblings. And I think, of the 9 of us, 2 of us went left field. 1 followed me. And the baby brother. I don't know. I often think about what made that turn. I think at that point in my life, I was only, in my adolescent. I was removed from home at the age of 10 into state ward. Not because I had a home that wasn't a loving foundation home, but I was just a naughty kid. Maybe frustrated, lost amongst the 9 siblings. I'm in the middle. And the focus of mum and dad, very church-oriented, very culture-oriented. Yeah, I just had this sense of just being a wayward kid with no direction.
By age 13, he had given up on school. By 15, he was a member of the local mongrel mob, which was just starting a chapter in Mangere.
I always think of a lot of the guys that were in the gangs at that time, and even up till now. We just lost souls.
Yeah.
And many have come from some really abusive backgrounds, which is no surprise to me, when I think back now and the work I do today. There's no real surprise as to how many of us were lured into the gangs as a form of community.
It becomes a family for many,
Well, it becomes
isn't
a family to a point.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a line there in regards to loyalty, which is unlike a real family, a family that one should have had from the beginning. The family
you did have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, some of these guys you bump into, they'll say that we thought it was normal. It wasn't until they bump into someone else and say, oh, do you do this and that, and not realise that's how a family functions. Not having a dad around, or both mum and dad are also lost in space, where the offspring are sort of doing as they're pleased. They're coming home, there's no food in the cupboards. You know, all that nurturing that everyone should be provided. You'll find that in many of the backgrounds, that nurture wasn't there. So it became normal to many of them that they had, you know, it was a fight for survival. And then hence the stealing, and then it just escalates from there.
And it becomes easier and easier in a way of life.
Then there's the, the cigarette smoking, the alcohol, and then before you know it, you're smoking weed, and then it goes on from there.
For Dave, the path of his crime led to prison. For what and for how long, he'll tell us shortly.
When I got out of jail, I went back to the mob, had a little bit more to do with them. I was part of the leadership, and I just had this feeling that I'd really had enough.
Yeah.
I didn't see me going anywhere.
Yep.
And because I sort of handled all the money side of the gang at the time, I just packed everything up. And I went and saw the guy who's a well-known gang figure. He's passed away now, who was leading at the time. And I just went to his house and I just put the books down on the table and I said, bro, that's it. And he just wished me well, and then I just walked out.
And that was it?
That was it.
Wow.
And
because you hear stories of, once you're in and you can't get out.
Yeah. Yeah, you hear those stories. But for me, this is what happened.
That was your experience.
Yeah,
Can you remind us what you went to jail for?
I went to jail for armed robbery.
Okay.
I sort of felt at the time that it was quite a harsh penalty, because during the early 80s, late 70s, that would have been seen as a harsh penalty at the time,
How many years?
10, know. And I often think about that, and I was saying that, there were other things I'd done and got away with. And I was thinking, well, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm satisfied.
Take your 10 and go. Yeah.
Take the consequence and be thankful.
By now, Dave was in his mid-40s. He wanted more from life for him and his family, and that's when he found faith.
And then I come to the realisation, after being curious about Christianity, digging somewhat deeper, and finding out that, no, Jesus Christ did not carry a belt. And he was a person who embraces and loves people. He was compassionate, he was kind, and he never forced himself over anybody. He didn't do home invasions, as I often say. He doesn't climb through people's windows. He knocks on the door of one's heart. And if you remember, there are many homes that, especially Polynesian homes, that have a portrait of Jesus Christ knocking on a door, and if you look at that portrait closely, you'll realise that the doorknob is not on his side, it's actually on the inside, which means the doorknob can only be opened by you.
I like that.
So I sort of thought that maybe that's what's missing in my life. And once I came to that realisation, I just stopped. I just stopped, knowing that I already had 2 older kids after prison and all that. I'd missed a bus with them. And I'm talking about my older boy, Davey, young Dave.
Who we all know.
Yeah, people know him as the brown butterbean.
Yep.
And then, of course, my late daughter, Vicky.
Vicky made national headlines in 2016 after she was diagnosed with terminal cancer while in prison and fought to be released on compassionate grounds.
We are going to begin with breaking news. Vicky Letele, she is being released from prison right now. Remember, she was sentenced to 3 years in prison for fraud. She was diagnosed with a terminal cancer inside prison. Her family have been campaigning unsuccessfully at first to get her out.
I had one more daughter after that. There's a big gap between the two. Between Vicky, Dave and Maripa, my youngest. And why I say it's important about what we lead in terms of example for our kids. I was a little late also for my youngest in regards to being that example, because she became a drug addict. And I'm just so thankful that through the number of times that we were able to get her into Grace Foundation, I have her back. She's very well now. Healthy. She actually works for Dave, little Dave, at the brown butterbean. So I'm really happy that I've been good enough to be the example that she needed in her life now. So she's in her mid-30s now. But my focus truly right now today is my grandchildren.
Yeah.
I really want to make sure that they're given every opportunity to succeed in life.
Break that cycle.
Yeah. And it's the thing I tell all our people at Grace Foundation. We missed the bus, but let's make sure our offspring, or our offspring's offspring, our grandchildren, our moko, get on that bus. It's the bus to education. It's the bus to a well-being. It's a bus of hope.
You've had an incredible story of redemption, and you've had a second chance. Why is it so important? Because some people go, criminal once a criminal, always a criminal, they don't deserve a second chance. Why is it so important that criminals, gang members, get a second chance and get to go to the Grace Foundation?
Yeah. Well, that's what I say to many. I said it's not about a second chance. It's actually about providing their first chance they never got.
Nice.
And I think once people understand that, then they'll realise they had no choice. Not all choices are equal. From the womb, these guys had no chance. Can you imagine some of the backgrounds that some of these guys came from started from the womb? You know, the abuse mum might have been taking, all that sort of stuff, whatever mum was doing, it all happened there. So the moment they birthed, they virtually had no chance. No chance at all.
So they come to the Grace Foundation. Talk us through what a standard day looks like. How do you help these people?
Oh. Well, if you go back to when we started, 2007, we had absolutely no idea what we were actually doing. All we saw was a need. And how do we fulfill that need best we can? So it started off with shelter, which is a home.
Yep.
And from the home, you can start looking at the issues that got them to the place that they're at. And funny enough, you learn as you go. And we started off mainly with a lot of mental health, people that were challenged mentally. And these are people that I suppose back in the day would be in Kingseat, would be in Kimberley, Oakley. But because of the closure of those places, I think throughout the 60s and the 70s, you find these people walking the streets or in inappropriate accommodation. And that's who we ended up with initially. But as time went on, things started to actually come clearer as to the direction that we needed to take as a foundation. And because of my own background, the lived experience I have is, there was always this want to help other gang members, and especially those incarcerated. As you well know, there is a big concern, and it's been like this for decades, the mass incarceration of Indigenous people. And that starts from the boys' homes, all the way through. So that's basically where we've landed, is we started to get into two sides to corrections, is the remand and the parolee. So we do a lot of work with those on the remand side, and I do a lot of work also with those that have served long sentences now coming up for their parole hearings, and if we can get them out earlier to reintegrate, and then all the better. So it's really just giving all those two ends, the front door and the back door, an opportunity, because as you well know, the recidivism of our people, it started off from an early stage and they're still going in circles. So it's about breaking the cycle.
And how many cycles do you reckon you've broken, so to speak? Your reoffending, your success rate, call it what you want. How many people do you think you've helped and got them on the right track?
I really couldn't number it. I just know that they would number in the thousands. I mean, we've literally had thousands come through. I always refer to our foundation as a doorway. It has no door, meaning we don't have a criteria. I always say we fish with a net, not a fishing line. We don't look at a fish, undersized, no, he's no good, throw him back. We don't pick and choose who comes to the foundation.
You say come on in?
Just come on in, give it a go. If it doesn't work, well, maybe it might work the second, third, fourth, fifth time, It's taken years for them to get to that point. We can't expect it to happen within months. That's why we don't have a time frame in terms of how long their stay is. All our leadership, and it numbers around 30, between 30 and 40, I'm talking about the upper range of our leadership, all former residents, every single one of them, lived experience. I always state that it's not enough just to have that. We have empathy because of it. We understand the journey our people are on. We once wore their shoes, but now we need to upskill. We need to educate, and I mean getting diplomas, doing all that stuff to help us better communicate and better to help our people, and that there's hope for us, you know.
And the rest of New Zealand is now going to get an insight to this because you've got this new documentary out. I've been lucky enough to see a couple of the episodes, and it's raw and it's heartbreaking but heartwarming.
Yeah.
One of the things that really took my breath away is the ownership of their culture, and then they go compete in a kapahaka competition.
Yeah.
How important is it, the Māori, you know, knowing who they are and their culture? How important is that to recovery?
Oh, it's super important. It's about identity, reconnecting. It's sad because you get to find out that many have encountered Māoridom in terms of culture through kapahaka and waiata when they go to jail. And it's the only time that they've encountered that such an important part of their lives that obviously they weren't provided for whatever reason. So it's a proud thing, you know, proud moment for us when we see our people up there on stage. Because I always encourage kapahaka because it was one of the things that got me through as a Samoan, got me through my jail leg to the point where I was actually leading kapahaka. It's because I saw the value in it, even though it wasn't part of my own culture. I saw the value in it in terms of confidence. I always say to the brothers, you commit to kapahaka, you will stand anywhere and not be whakamā, not be embarrassed, not be shy, not be shamed. You will stand proud because of that, you know, that boldness to stand up and represent.
And you can see how proud they are. How did they all feel, and how did you feel about being in this doco and to put it out there for, you know, the rest of the world to see?
Well, I think the documentaries, we're now acknowledged as the largest rehab, if you want to call it a rehab, in Aotearoa. And it was never intended, but it's just the way it happened, you know. And I'm just, when I think back from my faith side, it could only be a God thing that's landed us in where we are today. I mean, we have a capacity of 500, and I see that growing. If you take into account the most recent report I've seen on the corrections website, to take care of one individual male on the sentence side, it's over $500 per day.
Per day.
Per day.
Wow.
And for a remand prisoner, it's just over $400 per day. You know, and we charge that one day is a week. And you can see that we've been given like a £1/4 butter, if I can use this to illustrate, a £1/4 butter to butter a whole loaf. And we hope that we can spread it across that whole loaf. So, you know, we've got those challenges as well. And I'm hoping the doco will give not only an insight in terms of what we do, because we will have our moments at Grace Foundation. I mean, we're dealing with some of the most difficult individuals you can come across. And I'm not just talking about tāne, men. I'm talking also about our women. Mm-hmm. You know, we have over 100 women in our care presently, and that's not counting the children. You know, we have our mums and bubs. Sometimes you struggle to hold back emotionally because you hear their stories. And I remind our men that many of our women are here because of us. We have not taken the responsibility of taking care of our wahine. In fact, we've harmed them, we've hurt them in all ways. They should never be here. You know, they should never be here at Grace Foundation. And the reason why is because they're trying their best to take care of family because their men are not there. So I'm really hopeful for the doco to give people an insight on the most challenging work one can get involved with, and that's it's not saving people per se, but it's offering that opportunity to grasp onto this thing called hope. You know, and the hope is that they will consider another pathway in their lives. Whether they come as gang members. I was asked by Mark Mitchell, the corrections minister right now. He visited us a year or so ago, and he asked me pulled me aside, and he asked me the question, "Hey Dave, is your goal here is to have gang members leave their gangs?" And I said no. it's not actually. I said, my goal is to hopefully have gang members leave better people. And my hope then is if they leave better people, they may reconsider their position, where they are right now in their lives, where their families stand, and what's best for them in their lives. If they go back better club members, all the better. But my hope is they can go that extra mile and reconsider the direction that they've been living up until this point.
The Grace Foundation doesn't rely on government money to keep running. Instead, donations and private funding cover the operations and salaries. And if you're wondering, no, it's not making Dave rich.
15 years I was in Grace, leading Grace, no wage at all. And I lived in all the men's homes throughout those years. I would go in and live in different homes. And whatever they ate, I ate. And it's funny, people giving me those golden handshakes to keep me going. And it's only maybe in the last 3 years that Grace have been in a position to give me something. And that's because they offered it to me a while back, but I kept giving it to another leader. Oh, no, let him have it. You know, it was all this building up leadership, because you can't do it alone. And that's part of the success, I believe, of Grace Foundation going forward, is the building of leaders. I need to make sure that even when we're not there, that this waka continues to sail.
That's it for today. The Detail is a newsroom production supported by RNZ and New Zealand On Air. Thank you to Dave Letele Snr. This episode was produced by Alexia Russell and engineered by Phil Benj. I'm Amanda Gillies. Mā te wā.